Welcome back to another video on the Dre Sanchez YouTube channel. I am Dre Sanchez, aka the Motivated Sim Pilot, and we are here at Honolulu International Airport in Honolulu, Hawaii. We flew in here on our last flight in a Boeing 757-300 for Delta Airlines, even though it was a fictional flight, even though Delta does fly here, just not from Alaska or Anchorage. They usually fly from the West Coast, LAX, San Francisco, all that good stuff. So anyway, we got all the passengers here safely. Thank goodness you guys made it safe along with me because you were on board. And now we're taking this Beechcraft 1900 Delta on over to Hilo Airport, and I'm not quite sure if we're going to do more than one leg today, but we're for sure going to do this leg. Funny stuff, I actually tried to do this flight earlier. Everything in my house was going wrong. I run a business as well that my wife and I own, and stuff got busy with that. So this flight has been quite the interesting challenge to get up, but my goal is to get it up today. So anyway, the other day I took a couple flights in this again to refamiliarize myself with the aircraft, and was messing around with my kids and ended up the engines caught on fire on my little test flight. So that's not going to happen today, but I sometimes do that before I make a video to refamiliarize myself with the aircraft. Otherwise, we struggle together. Good thing is we're going to be watching those engines today, so we got to watch the torque, ITT, everything, because sometimes I let that stuff get away from me. So full complement of passengers. Like I said, right now we're on the VATSIM network. There is no observable ATC, so we're going to handle our navigation on our own, so I need you to help me out. So in the meantime, we're just going to consider all of the passengers having boarded this wonderful aircraft, and so let's go ahead and button up the doors and get on this cold and dark cockpit so we can get out of here. It's looking a little overcast here today, so hopefully we get some scenic views. So let me go ahead and jump on here, and then I'm going to be pulling in the weather and things of that nature before we even get started, so that we can literally just go ahead and get our flows going. Let me refresh the weather and bring it in so that we know exactly what we're doing. All right, here is the current MEDAR. So we got a few clouds, 2,300 and below, some scattered at 4,700 and broken at 6,500 feet. Winds are basically out of the east at 70 degrees at 10 knots, so pretty stern headwind there, not too bad. Conditions are VFR, and the altimeter is 2996 with the temperature of 64 Fahrenheit or 28 degrees Celsius. So that is the weather that we are going to use. So let's go ahead and get power on the aircraft, of course, and then get that going. And then before we do anything else as well, I want to go ahead and share where we're at on the airport, what our more than likely our anticipated runway is going to be, especially because we are doing all of this by ourselves. So here we are on this general aviation ramp, and the winds are out of the east, so we are, whatever we do, we're taking runway 4 right. We are going to be using a standard instrument departure, which is the Molokai 4. So essentially what we need to do is vector ourselves to pulps. So if we take off eastern takeoff, then we'll be able to simply probably just turn right here and go to pulps, because this is our transition point in our flight plan. So we'll do that. Normally we would only do what this says here and climb up only to 5,000 feet after we vector ourselves to our transition point, but in this case we're not going to have that. We are going to be that. So it must complete a right turn to assign heading within 2 nautical miles of departure end of runway. So as soon as we get up in the air, we can go ahead and start busting our turn, basically is what this is saying. So it's going to be a right turn to whatever heading that we're getting on. And it looks like this heading down here is on 108. So if we're leaving on, let's say, like a runway 4 right is a 42-degree heading, we're essentially going to be heading this way. So we're going to need to make a nice right turn. Probably instead of to 108, we'll probably make that turn to maybe 110 or 120, intercept and get on course to this outbound radial here from this point. So having said that, Everything else here looks copacetic. This is not pilot edge, so we don't need to worry about the real frequencies if ATC does come on. So with that being said, the only other thing that I am going to show you at this point before we get crack-a-lackin', so then we could just go straight into it and I don't have to show you anything else because I'm a nice guy, is going to be our flight plan. So we again are going to be leaving on that departure which I just shared with you. So this is the overall flight plan. Of course, our alternate airport is right back here to Honolulu. Flying time today is about 55 minutes. We've got 2,900 pounds of fuel on. Here's our waypoint, Malakov 4 with the pulse transition that we talked about, then onto this airway, 2 airways, and then on into the field. And then of course here is the rest of our flight plan filed right here. So this is what we're filing right here, and here's the breakdown in our fuel elements. Overall they recommend 2,704 pounds of fuel, and again we have 2,900 pounds of fuel because I like to put extra in the tank. Alright, let's slide this Defiant window out of the way and get cracking here, so that we're not sitting here just looking at a cockpit with no power on it. The reason why I did that though is because once we get the battery on, we got to keep going so we can get the aircraft started and initialized. Alright, so without further ado, let's just do one thing here, and we want to make sure that parking brake is set. We're going to go up on this headrest here. Let's get a little bit of a different view and just grab it from the top. Let's see, there we go. And we're going to grab this headrest, or this armrest. I call them a headrest, but they're armrests. And we're going to leave the yoke up here, even though I'll work around it. Let's come right here. We're going to click this switch up, which is the overall panel here. We're going to assume we've got some external power, and we're going to do a battery start with external power today. We're going to get those avionics on, of course. Let's get our AC buses on here, and we'll stop there for now. Now let's go ahead and click up top, and let's turn the master panel light switch on. We can turn these little overhead lights down for now. Everything else we will leave up to bright. We're also going to turn the nav light on and the red beacon to let folks know the aircraft is coming alive. And let's see here, we have not got anything on the ground power, external power, but who knows if it even works or if it's modeled correctly here in this sim. So now what we need to do is come over here, and we need to get these pretty much to the taxi point, and then we need to get our levers here up at least until the low idle, which is going to probably be about right there for start. And now we can just look left and clear left there, and let's move over to the first officer side, which is your side. And you can see here's an aircraft out here. He must be behind that wall in the yellow, but anyway, there's some other. So we'll be doing our call outs. All right, now what we want to make sure is if there's any boost pumps to be on. Let's see, standby pump. We're going to turn our boost pumps there, and then of course the tank is reading on the auxiliary one. We want it to read the main tank so that we can see all of that fuel that's in there. So let's I don't think we need the standby pump on at all. So hopefully we have a good start here. Now we gotta, let's see, peek through here. We're gonna arm this ignition, and we are going to go for right engine start. All right, we do have that turbine coming up. So now what we're going to do, we are going to introduce full fuel. All right, you can really hear that engine kicking up. We are going to seriously be watching our engines on takeoff. We are not going to over torque them today. So that engine sounds like it's stable. So now what we want to do is we want to sneak right in here, turn that generator on, Now we can get the external power off for sure, because we are running one generator. In the meantime, let's check that up top. And you can see it has a load on it right here, folks, which is more than perfect. Alright, let's go for that engine start number 2. Let's sneak right here between the flight controls and get that to the on position. Alright, starting the left side, or number 1. You can see ITT, everything is coming up. Alright, now it looks like we can go ahead and go all the way up on the fuel mixture there. It's kind of dark in here, but there it is. There we go. See if there's any other instrument lights in this thing. It always looks a little dark to me. That engine looks stable anyway. Let's keep doing what we're doing. Alright, that generator is up and on. So we are good there. Let's get down here and get our rudder boost on. Then of course, let's go up top and double check both of our generators have a load on it, which they do. Now we can come over here to the left generator and see that we've got good AC on it, and the right one as well. So that's all good. Alright, now we want to go ahead and let me just make sure all these lights are on. Let's see if that reading, that's the cabin lights. We'll leave that on. FSB wasn't armed, which is good. Emergency test, we don't need that. Just double checking everything up top, doing a nice little flow here. Make sure we don't miss anything. So everything up top thus far looks good. Let's go ahead and get these avionics on. So simply we're going to come down here and we're going to put these switches into the on feature. Runway heading today is going to be 42 because we're going to leave from runway 4, and we said that altimeter was, let me check back up top, I believe it's 2996. So let's get 2996 plugged in there. Okay, so we got our 2996 altimeter in there. So now let's also fix this heading bug. Now you guys will see me looking down low. I like to get the switches where they're at in the aircraft for the immersion, so I don't like to pull up the quick windows. So you'll see this heading move. We're going to switch it back to 42, but essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here. I'll be always grabbing this, but then I can look away as long as I keep my left mouse clicked on it. It'll simulate that my finger is on this moving. So let's do that. So I got a hold of it. So then that's when we come over here and we want to go back to 42 on the heading. Now we have 42 on the heading, and we're good to go there. We are going to climb unrestricted up to 12,000, which is already in there. And we are going to be squawking VFR, which we can do now. And then let's get ourselves back on the Unicom frequency. And then, of course, more importantly, how about we get our flight plan put in? So we're going to come here. I haven't used this GNS 530 in a minute, but it's still very useful. It just doesn't do airways. That's okay. So, of course, our first point is going to be a procedure. So let's come here and select a departure, which the departure we said is the Malakoff 4. Enter, and we're going to take runway 4 right. Enter that, and our transition point is Pulps. So we got all that in. Now it says load. We need to enter that. Then, of course, after Pulps, let's look back up top. And after Pulps, we have Pumik, which really we have a it's an airway, the entrance of air, but this doesn't do airways. But this airway is literally between these 2 points. So it's convenient for us that we don't need to worry about that. Otherwise, if it was a longer airway, we would have to put on a few different points to make sure the aircraft stays linear on the airway path. You wouldn't need to put every point on there, but you need to make sure the points are, linear enough on the path for you to do that with this equipment. So you gotta know your equipment. And then after Pumik, we're gonna go to ITO, which is a VOR. So let's go here. And Boom. And let's go for the O. There it is, which is the Hilo VOR. Accept that, and then the last place that we're going to put in is actually the field. So we're looking for Papa Hotel Tango Oscar. There it is, Hilo International. I don't know much else about it. Once we get in the air, we will figure out how we're going to land. As you can see here, we're taking off roughly vector 42, so we're going to do a right turn. Here's the MKK VOR, so we'll do probably a right turn. You know, by the time we get in the air, we're going to be past this VOR anyway. Look, it's only 0.3, so we're going to assume that this pulse is going to be what we'll be direct to first, and it's at heading 109. So we'll still do a turn maybe at about 120 to intercept that course 109, or at least get down there, and then we'll just go direct. So that we can be prepared to do that, let's just leave this guy right here on pulps. Let's go back to the flight plan, and again, if we're taking off runway, let's see, this is due north, we'll just say this is 1020, so we're going to be essentially taking off this way. We do a right turn to intercept this eventually, so I think we're doing well. So let's do one last little flow here. Let me adjust my seat here. There we go. Looks like the weather's updating. Alright, what else do we have down here? So we need to get our pitot heats on. Right and left. We also need to get our bleed on. Open those bleeds. Oops. Bring it up. Now we got rid of that. Ignition. Now the auto feather needs to come on. Where are you at, auto feather? Here you are. Up and armed, and we need to make sure the oxygen is pulled out. And everything else looks good. Let's double check this is in the GPS mode tracking, and so I think we're good to go, folks. It looks like we're good to go flying. So once again, we are going to, and essentially what I should do, since it's just us, oops, let me keep that yoke there. Since it's just us, I am going to use a reference, which we'll do another direct again. No, we'll get in the air and do our right turn first and get airborne, then I'll go direct to that point. How about that? So we'll play it like that. Alright, left is clear, right is clear. Now let's go ahead and put our flaps down for takeoff. Down, and here's our flap indicator. It's indicating. Just to let you guys know, we'll get airborne, and here is our yaw damper and autopilot, which we'll get on, and this is our trim adjustment for once we are on autopilot. Other than that, folks, let's go flying. Let's get here, and then we'll determine once we land if we are going to do another leg or not. Let me look to the right, look to the left. It looks clear. This is a pretty easy taxi. We're just going to come here to the right and go to the taxiway Charlie and go all the way down. So no big deal there. Alright, we got fuel up, and in order to taxi a little bit faster, we won't have them all out. Let's get our props up. You'll hear those. Alright, now let's just get them all the way up. Alright, everything is to full. Parking brake is released. Alright, now that we've released that parking brake, we need to come up top, get the taxi, and looks like the recognition lights were already on. Honolulu traffic, number 350 Kilo Tango, leaving general aviation parking, turning left on Charlie for departure on runway 04 right out to the east with a turn to the south for Honolulu traffic. All right. We are doing good.
Honolulu traffic, Hawaiian 382 departing 8 right, Honolulu. Correction 8 left, Honolulu.
Alright. So we got another pilot departing 8 left. Which I'm almost glad he's departing now. Hopefully he's in a jet, because I don't know which way he's turning. He didn't indicate which way he's leaving the field. He's leaving east. I don't know if he's doing a turn to the north, the south, continuing east, or whatever the case may be. Stop here. Set the brake. Hawaiian Airlines aircraft is departing Honolulu on runway 8 left. This is November 350 Kilo Tango. Which direction will you be turning on departure, sir?
The only direction you can turn. Read the chart.
Okay, I appreciate that. Didn't check the chart out. I will check that out. Have a good flight, brother. Alright, so he was definitely a smart you-know-what. And so I reserve... which it is a right turn. So I'll let him depart. And obviously I didn't read his chart. I read the chart for us, but yeah, it is that turn. So that's alright. People like that will get their karma back. We are not going to worry about it here on this channel. That is truly coming from the spirit of a combat veteran talking here. So things in life just don't get that important when you've seen combat, folks. So no need to get worried, even though we know he was rude. We'll let him do his little takeoff there. So, I mean, in a better communicative manner, we should have talked a little bit more than that, because okay, he's turning right, but I'm also taking off at the same time, so there should have been a little bit of banter back and forth. But we're going to make sure we don't crash, so we will most certainly let him get airborne. Alright. Give him a few more seconds before we get out of here, so let's go ahead and jump up top now and get our lights.
Traffic, Hawaiian 382, clear 8 right.
Alright, he is clear of 8 right. We'll get our strobe on. Nav ice. Honolulu traffic, number 350 Kilo Tango is entering runway 04 right for departure out to the east with a turn to the south for Honolulu traffic. Alright, so we have our situation all taken care of. We'll get on the runway here and make sure everything is good to go.
Traffic 175 turning for the ILS runway 08 left Honolulu.
So we also have inbound traffic as well. Alright, let's go down here. Make sure everything is up. Everything is up. We don't want no problems. Alright, now we have to monitor this engine, guys. We're going to do this together. Okay, here we go. I'm going to go up first before I release the brake. Alright, so now we're limited by our props right now, so we don't want to overdo our props. Alright, parking brake is released. For whatever reason, okay, the props are back to where they're being limited, which is good. Alright. And we're coming up on V1 and rotate. Alright, little touch right there on takeoff, no worries. gear is coming up. Alright, let's go ahead and get that turn going. Just gonna hand fly the aircraft here for a second. Flaps are coming up. Alright, let's keep making our turn here. Turn into about heading of 120, which is basically where we're at now, and straighten her out. Alright. Keep her straight and climbing. Honolulu traffic, November 350 Kilo Tango is clear of runway 04 right. Alright. So, see what little bit of a scenic view we can get here. Going right by downtown. Alright. Now what we're going to do is we are going to go to the flight plan and we're going to go to pulps. We're going to go direct. We're going to activate that. Then we're going to come up top here and just hit this to the nav button. And now you can see we're pretty much on course. So now we're direct pulps. Alright. Never know what you're going to get on this flight. Back here in the cabin, as you can see. Checking things out. Hoping that the pilot, this guy, gets us there safely. We shall see. Glad I'm not flying on other guy's plane. He seems a little ornery. It's all good though. She's all good. If there's a message for today on this flight, it would be treat others better. That's what I would say. When you can, be kind. Use being rude as a last resort. Once you get to a certain point in life, you realize there is nothing to prove. I've been to combat and invaded Iraq for the United States Army and spent a lot of time over there in the Middle East and throughout my career, and have realized that don't let everything bother you. Take everything with a grain of salt. Pick and choose your battles. Receive more than you transmit, and when at all possible, treat others kindly. As you would want them to treat you and your family. And that's it. You know, if you want to be tough, I tell people be tough, join the military. See what life throws at you. Alright, so we're going to go with landing lights off, taxi off, recognition off since we are above 10,000 feet. Nav, beacon, and strobe can stay on, of course. Alright, and we've only got about another 1,000 feet to go. And then we can most certainly start doing a little bit of planning on this flight over here to Hilo field. And let's also gather the weather from that airport, which is Hilo. Hope I'm saying that right. Could be Hilo. I don't know. So if I'm saying it right, I apologize. I really do. I'll do 10 push-ups right after the stream. I promise. I mean, after this video, not stream. Alright, so 170 on the winds at 4 knots. It's VFR conditions. Visibility is 10 miles. Altimeter is 3000. So, being as that the wind is out of the south, let's look at our best runway options. Alright. Oh, and that's still for Honolulu. I was like, what? So now we have to come over here and click this. Alright. There we go. So, winds are out of 170. Here's this runway at 5,600 feet, which is more than enough for us to land on. Runway 31 closed to turbine aircraft. 6 o'clock to 6 in the morning. We are a turboprop that has a turbine, so I don't know if we even fall in that category. Otherwise, I think our best bet, the best bet would be to come on this runway 210. Let's see what type of, or 21. See what type of approaches. We got an RNAV, so 26 is the primary. It's a pretty good crosswind. It's only 10 though. And we're going to be dropping them off in the terminal area. So, let's do the math here. Winds are at 170. Let me double check the speeds and everything here really quick. Okay, we're looking good. Winds are at 170 right now, so that's basically out of the south. So 260 and 170 is essentially 90. Difference of 90. 80 and 170 is also a difference of 90. So on this crosswind landing, it doesn't matter which way we go. Obviously the lowest disparity or the least disparity would be 210 from 170, which obviously would only be 40, which would be ideal. So, and this area over here is under construction. So I'm gonna make a command decision. We're coming on runway 26. Take it or leave it. Otherwise, it is VOR. We have these VOR options, DME, which gets you in the vicinity of the airport, but then you got to kind of do your own deal. I'm thinking we'll just set up for the ILS, even though we'll probably just do visual. And I like this. We'll be coming off the water in, so we don't have to worry about this mountain. Let's see, circle to land, not authorized, south of runway 826. So there is no circling to land authorized here, because that's south of that runway. Alright, so now if we want to get a bigger picture of what this all is going to look like, we can come over here and select approaches. We said it's going to be ILS 26. Let's show those final waypoints. So, we essentially need to get close to the field and then go parallel to the runway. So we'll need to do our downwind turn. Now, if you look at the approach, we'll be able to tell what that is. The final approach course is 259 and the reverse of that is 79. So final approach is 259 and the reverse of that is 79 degrees. So when we make our turn, we need to make a left turn to 79, of course. So far, so good. Actually, let's pull that back up and we'll slide that over. There we go. And let us cruise here for a second. Now what we can do now too, in order for preparation, we can go to the flight plan. Well, actually we don't even need to go to flight plan. We can do procedure and we can go ahead and select an approach, which will be ILS 26. And we can take that approach from the ITO, since that's in there, and we can essentially just load that. Now you can come here and look at the flight plan. From ITO we go to Wakik, and then it wants us to do this procedure turn, which we saw on the approach chart, which we will more than likely absolutely not be doing. We're just going to be downwind and then make our turn, so there's no need for us to do that procedure turn on this approach. At all. Not in our current situation. Yeah, and that's strange. I wonder why the procedure turn would come just like that. But we're not going to do it anyway, so let's just continue to cruise right along, folks. If we take a look at this, we've still got about 39 nautical miles to Pumik, and then ITO. Once we get basically direct ITO, we could just activate the approach so the aircraft will follow it, and it also show up on our map the way we want to. Let's put this range out a little bit. So there's our right turn, getting on course to Pumik, and then there's, you see the rest. So again, once we're direct ITO, we'll just go ahead and activate the approach, and it'll continue to take us to ITO. Alright. So we can also, when we start our descent, when we'll adjust our altimeter, since we are not following any type of air traffic control at this point. Let's go ahead and take a look at this scope. Traditionally, I was using VATSIM. The server's been kind of messing up, and then I got onto this SimAware, which is pretty dope. So, as you can see, there's we are. November 350 killed Tango, and there's our altitude. So, the funny thing is that same guy who's flying an actual route, just as I said, there are Hawaiian Airlines flights. They do fly Boeings and all that. He's most certainly ahead of us, flying a company route for Hawaiian Airlines into the Hilo airport. So, ironic thing is, the same rude guy that we talked to, we'll be talking to him at our destination as well too. So, funny, funny, funny. All right, we come on over to your side, first officer side. See here is that the island is over here. We are still traveling over water, which, especially in these areas, as much island hopping there is a definite necessity for twin engine aircraft. It's never any fun to fly single engine aircraft, especially over water and long distances all the time in case of an emergency. One thing I'm going to check really quick is the first point on our arrival is supposed to be 1,800 feet. Not our arrival, but our approach. So, check if our route actually goes over terrain. Okay, so essentially we don't go over any terrain whatsoever, so our descent looks pretty copacetic. Let me pull up my sky vector. I always want to check the MSAs so we don't hit any terrain that we don't need to. Alright, and there's no really, actually, let me, before I put my foot in my mouth. Let me do. Okay, so 4,000. It's about 3,000. Let's see here. This would be Pumik, and where's okay the ITO VOR. Okay, so potentially we need to be down 3,000. We'll say, or let's say at ITO we potentially need to be down at 2,000. We're going to say 2,000 at ITO. So let's see. Target position before, target altitude. So let's see if we could get this thing working here to calculate some stuff. So target altitude is 2,000 feet. MSL. And then target position before, or what's the choices here? Before. And I guess this is where you type in the waypoint. Let me see. I'm pretty sure there's a way. Okay. Is there a way? I guess it's only before. So I guess by saying 0 nautical miles before means it's going to be at, I suppose. And then we're going to do not Pumik, but ITO. And we want to do 1,800. Let's see. Okay, so I'm assuming it's all. Alright. So if we want to be there at 1,800 feet per minute, we got 5 minutes to the top of the descent. So that's pretty cool. Which seems kind of strange, but I guess it's correct. See how much 3,000 feet would be. Alright, so that's what we're going to choose. 3,000 feet. And let's go ahead and put that 3,000 feet into our altitude alerter. All right. This thing almost looks like it was a waste of whoever. Let's see, view center, forward. Alright, so we're getting ready to make our turn. So we make our turn, we can go ahead and activate our approach. approach has been activated. As we get close, we'll go ahead and do our due diligence to be downwind and come back around. As we get in the 50 nautical mile range, we'll start really looking at things of that nature. So essentially, if we let the aircraft do its due diligence on this approach, it looks like you do fly basically reverse course to Waukik. It does the procedure turn back to Waukik, and then you're aligned back up for the runway is the way it wants you to take this approach. I'm going to re-verify this on the approach chart as well. And if that's the way it's supposed to be, then perhaps that's the way we should do it. But instead of doing that, we're just going to go downwind, and we're not going to do the procedure turn. I'm going to do a visual landing anyway. Let's go over here and take a look at our VNAV situation. Just curious, if I were to bring it to 2,000 feet, we're still got about a minute. Alright, and since we're doing 3,000, let's just double check that. Yep, that's going to be at 3,000. So here in a second, we'll select our altitude select. Got about another minute or so to make that happen before we start descending into the Hilo International Airport on the island, the big island of Hawaii. And as you can see here, sorry if I sounded rude out of his earlier, was not the intention. So it looks like maybe he does have a conscience. No big deal. Alright, so anyway, we're supposed to descend to target. We got a little message. Threw us off. Alright, let's go ahead and start that descent. Alright, let's pull that speed back, of course. So that was noble of the pilot to come back and say that. Not that we were too worried about it, obviously. So we're not too worried about that, but that takes a big person to come back and say that. So appreciate you there, fellow pilot. Alright, landings on, taxis on. For our arrival, let's go ahead and get that 300 altimeter in there, as we said that we were going to get on descent. And we are coming on down. Now let's take a look at the map here. Push our cursor out of there. We should take it back to the map here in a second. Okay, there we go. As you can see, it's about 20 nautical miles. We want to get it to where it's about 10. Alright, so at this point, I feel pretty good about changing our heading. And we said that heading was going to be 79. Alright. There we go, we got the heading of 79 programmed in. If you take a look here, we're about to be within a 10-mile nautical radius. So let's go ahead and get on to heading. And we'll continue our descent. As you can see here, we're getting pretty much parallel. Now we're pretty much parallel to the field. We'll keep ourselves this way so that we can come back on around. Now another thing that we need to keep in mind is the approach frequency, which is 110.7. So we're going to come and put that in. The way you do that is you got to push this in, and look, there's 110.7. It's already programmed in, so essentially we've already just switched it over. We're going to get this to VLOC. So 110.7 is there, so then now we can come back over here and push this back up to where it manipulates that frequency. Bring our speed back slightly. Now another thing that we need to do is we need to get our Nav receiver turned on. So there is that. Let me fix my mouse here by unplugging my remote, my joystick, which loves to give me a hard time. So now we are going to go all the way down to 2,000 feet. You can see we are still on the downwind leg, and we're coming in from runway 6. Hilo traffic number 350 Kilo Tango is on the downwind leg for runway 26. We'll be turning base here in about 3 minutes, and then to final for full stop runway 26 for Hilo traffic. Alright, so we have made our announcement appropriately. Now once we make our turn, let's go ahead and look at what our plan of action is going to be here. Once we make our turn, we're heading this way, so we'll do a turn. This is a perfect southern turn of about 180 degrees, so there's 150, 140. So we're going to make our turn to about we could make it right here. If this is 180, we could make this 160 smartly. Once we get there, and then we can be far enough up here so that we can put our information so that we can intersect the ILS, and we're starting to get ILS information. All right. one thing we want to do is make sure that course heading indicator is on the right one. And I'm thinking that's 2, so let's come back up down here again. Alright, we're past it, so now we're going to go ahead and do our turn to 160. And then the final approach course will be 259. Alright, let's just double check the landing lights are on, taxi is on. Altitude alerter has been used, we don't need that anymore. Alright, so essentially what we're going to do is continue to make our turn, and then once we get about here, we're going to make our turn to intercept this point here, and then we should absolutely be on the ILS just to be on the safe side. So let's pick that speed up, and of course now we can go full up on the props. So here in a second now, we need to do half the turn, 259, okay, which is right here is essentially it, but we're not going to turn all the way to 259. We're going to make our course heading about 210 here in a second for intercept, which we can do that probably right now. And of course we need to come over here and activate the approach button. So you can see here we have our cues out here. Alright, now essentially we are turning on heading 259. And there's the runway. Gear is coming down. Hilo traffic, November 350 Kilo Tango has turned final, passing Wasik for full stop runway 26 for Hilo traffic. Alright, let's double check those gear are down, which they are, and let's start bringing our speed back and get ready to have us a nice little landing here. And we're going to go for autopilot off. Alright, so gear is down, 3 green. 1 stage of flaps out. Alright, we're slightly above the actual glide slope, if you see there. Alright, flaps are to land. So now we'll just watch our speed, because otherwise what's going to happen is we'll climb, because the aircraft is super floaty right now. I don't anticipate having to use reversers here, but if we do have to use them, we will. Pull our approach speed back slightly. So far, it's a pretty stable approach. Just keeping our speed down. You can hear that nav radio doing its job. Let's get rid of that. There we go. Alright, coming back on the speed a little bit. Alright, just over some trees. Never been here before. Alright, let's keep that nose up. Went back on the power slightly. Alright, we buttered it. Which is okay. A few little hopperooskies. Alright. Let's get a quick reverse here. Alright, reverse free. Wheel brakes engaged. Alright. Coming up on the flaps for cleanup. And we're turning, looks like on Delta. Hilo traffic, Northern 350 Kilo Tango, clear of runway 26 on Delta, taxiing the ramp via Alpha for Hilo traffic. Alright. Let's come up here really quick and get our landing lights off and our strobe, of course. Welcome into Hilo. Alright, so we will taxi on in here and then look and see how we did. By no means perfect flight. Still need some more hours in this aircraft. I do actually like flying this thing. It's pretty enjoyable. I like flying this one, and I like flying the Beechcraft King Air 350. This one's a little more challenging, using that older GNS 530. Alright, go ahead and make a right here on Echo. found a web root notification there. I'll have to get rid of that in a second. Alright, and there is the main ramp. We actually won't be parking at a gate, just because this aircraft is not really designed to go to the gate. So we're just going to be off over there to the right. Looks like that aircraft is on the VATSIM network, but he's got some elevation issues with his aircraft, how it's reporting into our sim. Alright, and we'll just roll up on this next one. They can come out with the passenger bus and what have you and retrieve the passengers, los pasajeros. Looks like they got a helicopter landing over here. Alright, since this aircraft is a prop aircraft, we will orientate it so that they don't have to do any type of pushback with this thing. Alright. Park and brake is set. Let's come down here and get our transponder off. Actually, we got to see it from this way. Okay, transponder is to standby.